Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Righteous Force, Paul, Flatzoid, Arwin in Google Plus. How are you all doing, first and foremost?
Hello.
Good afternoon.
A whole hodgepodge today. We're also joined by Chocolate Sane in Skype. How are you doing?
Hey.
Good morning.
Hello, very good to have you. And also we've got Dougie and 10th Man in Discord. Very good to have you also.
Good to be here.
You can kick us off with housekeeping if you want, 10th Man.
Sure. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Nope.
Not on Earth. None?
He specifically said that,
Nope,
Chocolate.
nothing here.
There's only Earth curvature in space?
Yeah, we're talking specifically Earth curvature. He did say that. Hey, Sleeping
Yeah,
Warrior.
I know. I'm being direct. There's no Earth curvature on Earth.
Hey. Totally redundant. Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hey.
Hey. We're on first housekeeping question. Feel free to ask
Hello,
about
hello.
gravity or whatever if you like, Sleeping Warrior.
There's no evidence of any curvature. Any obstructions curve on their model.
Feel free to ask another housekeeping question.
Any evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of gravity? No, definitely not.
Scientific evidence.
No gravity.
No, nothing here. Just relative density.
Joined by Dallas. How you doing, Dallas David?
Well, they don't even know what it is. It's a force, it's not a force, it's Newton, it's not Newton, it's Einstein, but now it might not be Einstein. They can't even make up their mind.
You're right. We can't get a consistent definition of gravity from boulders. Some of them say it's a force of attraction between masses. We know it's not that. Einstein superseded that position in 1915. Some of them, when pushed, will admit that it is the bendy space-time. But there's still this inconsistency with the definition of gravity. We know it's not a force attracting mass or a mass attracting force. So it has to be the curvature of space-time. But you can't get that out of them without pushing it, and it shouldn't be that way.
Can we get a definition of bendy space-time?
Call it whatever you want. I don't really care.
No.
Can't
I mean,
cause anything.
if they're going to say it's not gravity, it's not mass.
I still look. To be fair, I have to do my thing again. But the bending of space-time isn't really saying it's not mass attracting by mass. What it's basically saying, it is giving a fictional cause why it's doing that.
No, it's
And
the
neither
bending of
make any
space-time.
sense. So
The bending of space-time, Arwin, is the effect of the bending of space-time is what they call gravity. But it's not caused by anything other than the bending of space-time. So this is their position. It's ridiculous.
but it is still what the bending of space-time is suggested to do is caused also by the mass. It's not just random space. It is the mass that causes this supposed bending of space within the fourth dimension.
So the bending,
That's
the
how
mass
they say it. So
causes-
they give a fictional causal relation for it.
So the mass bends space-time. That's what the mass does. But it doesn't have a force of attraction with the objects, which is what they need because they want to hold on to Cavendish. But it can't do that. It bends the fabric of space-time. That's what it actually does.
Right.
On their model. I'm not saying that that's what it really does. I'm just saying that's what their model tells them it does, and they won't apply it.
On the mark.
Did you guys see the video I posted in Master B yesterday about perspective? It's about perspective. Do you see that? Do you guys see that?
No,
you guys see
I'm
that?
trying
Can
to
you hear me?
describe it.
Yeah, you'll have to just tell us, Paul.
Okay, it basically talks about different models, and I think he said initially Newton thought that it was springs that were causing the moons around Jupiter to move in and out. And because the guy in the video actually described the fact that model would work because it's a wave, it follows a wave function, which I thought was interesting. But then he rewrote a different model that also would work, and he went through like 3 or 4 different models modeling what going on with Jupiter and its moons. And I thought, I like the spring model because at least there's an interaction. They're connected at some point. So it's only about 5 or 10 minutes long, so it's not very long.
Shout out to Amanda Young for the super chat. She says, "Hey Nathan, good morning. I'm glad you're back." Oh, very pleased to hear it. Thank you very much for the super chat.
I remember the first time I heard Arwin describing the sky as I might get this wrong, so correct me if you want, Arwin, but you said
I will.
Like a hallucination or a manifestation or something of. I can't remember how you described it, but basically it was a hologram. That was the way you were describing it. And initially,
right.
when I first heard it, I thought that was ridiculous. But the more I look into their explanations for these things, these lights in the sky, let's be honest, there's still no progress from 2015, where we were calling them lights in the skies. There's still lights in the skies because there's still no further evidence to suggest anything other.
Right.
But the
And
point
I'd like
is
to
that
correct
you
you now, if
described it
I
as
may.
kind of- Yeah, go on. How did you describe it?
Well, I didn't say hologram. That's what the ballers kept on taking from that. That's how they twisted the words every time I brought it up to say, "Oh, hologram." It's a
Joined by XLR8 and FE Batman. Good to have you both.
Sorry. I said holographic, as in light-based in nature only.
Word
Good
to the
afternoon,
gentlemen.
Sorry to interrupt. Just a word to the Discord server. If you're not talking, try to keep yourselves on mute, just so you don't get any background news. Any background noise. Hey Babs, good to have you.
Well,
Find it
simulation
hilarious.
theory. Simulation theory would also. Oh, so simulation theory would also potentially say this is holographic at some point. So that's plausible on some scientific theories.
I find it hilarious when you
So-
can see the moons of Jupiter, and bear in mind that Jupiter's like 360 million miles away, but we can still see the moons of Jupiter
You
orbiting
always do
Jupiter.
a flat Earth chill when they talk about simulation theory. You realize that though, right?
So let me get this straight.
Simulation
They-
theory is very wide. It doesn't necessarily delve. It's more in looking into the origins of the nature of the physical realm. It's not so much concerned with the Earth in outer space as much what that's supposed to be like.
So let me get this straight. Here on Earth, mass doesn't attract mass because it can't be seen.
That's
But
right.
we know.
That's
But we
right.
know what's.
Well,
Hang
I
on,
got to interrupt. This
hang
is.
on,
this
hang on,
is-
hang on.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So here on Earth, mass doesn't attract mass. We have all the tools, the laboratories, and we still can't see it happening. But we know what's happening, Anthony, 360 million miles away with space-time bending. Is that what they're saying?
Well, my point was that you can see the moons as well as Jupiter. Now, they say that Jupiter is one of the biggest planets. The moons aren't as big as Jupiter, but we can see them clearly without even a telescope. I just find that astonishing that most people can't even read a number plate from 20 meters away.
You got a
Yeah,
point.
but my point is, our moon is closer than the Jupiter's moon, and they just came out with news saying that's in our atmosphere.
No, I'm pretty sure they say our moon is in our atmosphere, not Jupiter's moon.
No, that's what I said. That's what I meant. So here they just
Right.
found out, supposedly, of course, it's all made up, but that our moon, the Earth's moon, is in the Earth's atmosphere. And now they're going to give us advice on moons around Jupiter when they didn't know this so-called new information about our moon till now.
I don't think anybody realizes how big this story is. Newton was wrong. Scientists dismissed Newton's theory of gravity. Headline News Express 5 days ago. This thing has went worldwide. I mean, newspaper after newspaper has been picking this up. It's even in the Pakistani.mil website. The Pakistanis are putting this on the front page of all their newspapers for their soldiers. I don't think. Here, let me say it again.
It doesn't make any sense, though. It doesn't make any sense because Newton openly never claimed a hypothesis.
Owen, he was in the middle of saying something. Carry on, David.
Newton was wrong. Scientists dismissed Newton's theory of gravity. This is all over the world now, newspaper after newspaper after newspaper, and these guys have no explanation. And then if you look into it, it says the top 100 scientists in the world have announced this. So they need to hurry up and at least give us a citation where part of Newton's gravity works or where it doesn't, because at this point right now, everybody I'm talking to, well, it works kind of sort of up to a point and then around the corner over there, but we gotta know how to figure it out, you know?
Okay, thank you. Arwin, feel free.
Newton never claimed an hypothesis for gravity. Officially written down. And
he has a theory of gravity. Newton's theory of gravity
hold on, Sleeping Warrior. Hold on, David. Right? Hold on. Feel free to just round that out, Arwin.
What? Sorry?
You want to just round out your point, or were you done?
It's just that Newton never claimed a hypothesis. He wrote that down very specifically. You can even Google search it. He did that. So he never claimed a hypothesis for gravity. It's just taken for granted by the rest.
Thank you.
The thing is, you can literally look anywhere and everywhere online and just search for is gravity a force, and it's everywhere. Newton was wrong. Einstein is right. It's not a force. It's everywhere. Yet ballers in this discussion still tell people there's a mass attracting mass and a force. It's everywhere that it's not. I mean, even yesterday on Ranty's channel, Rumpus is still saying that gravity is a force. Literally try it. It's everywhere. Gravity's not a force. So if it even exists in the first place, it can't cause anything.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Hello.
Yo, Anthony, you there?
Yo.
Yeah. So, your explanation for the phenomenon of things falling to the ground based on relative density seems plausible, but I have one problem with it, though. Let me use an example. So, if we have a container, like a glass, for example, that's full of sand, and we place a steel ball on that sand, technically the steel ball is more dense than the sand, but it doesn't go to the bottom of the container.
Yeah, because
why does that happen in that scenario?
Because the sand is acting as a fall arrest in the same way that a plank of wood or even a bed sheet, all of which are less dense than. If it's acting as a fall arrest and it stops it from finding or seeking its equilibrium, then it's essentially a barrier, and that's what's happening. I mean, the sand is like kind of solid, but if you have just any like gas, liquid, or non-solid that's below it, but it's less dense than it, it will displace. But because of its solid nature, that's stopping it from moving. Fall arrest.
Okay, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense, but in the explanation for relative density, is it based on the density of the two different substances relating to each other?
Provided
that's
the object
causing
is free to
either
move,
one
I
of
mean,
those
yeah.
substances to move or not move.
Maneuverability is a big factor in it.
Yeah, it does need to be able to freely move. I mean, you can stand on a styrofoam block. If you get the density right and the child's weight right, you can stand on top of the styrofoam block, but it's much less dense than him. And it's because there's a physical object physically stopping him from moving. With gases and fluids, they're not physical, are they, in the sense that they're fluids. So they're able to displace each other because they're able to move freely. And the order is organized by the relative density and the state of disequilibrium the objects are in.
Oh, right. Okay, I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is it's all dependent on the state of matter. So when we're dealing with things that are solid, they're not as free to move around as gases or liquids.
Sure.
Yep.
Is that the point that you're making?
Yeah.
Yeah. The cohesion of the materials among themselves can prevent equilibrium from being found for objects.
Okay. That's fair enough. One more thing. I want to answer one of David's questions that he brought up last week. I've been meaning to answer this for a while, but I was just kind of busy. He wanted to know, how do you weigh a helium balloon? And Arwen said that what you need to do is take that balloon and put it in a vacuum chamber with a scale. Well, you could do that, but the only issue with that is that you're going to get the weight of the helium as well as the rubber that the balloon is made of. Technically, what you should do is...
Hold on, he's nearly there, Arwen.
Sorry.
Yeah, technically what you should do is, if you know what the density of helium is, which is 0.2 kilograms per cubic meter, what you need to know, or what you need to look at, is the volume of the balloon in question. So if you know the volume of the balloon in cubic meters, all you'd have to do is multiply that volume by 0.2, and that's going to give you the mass of that, the helium that's in that balloon.
But it wouldn't be weighing then, now would it? It would be
that would be-
deducing.
that
You
would be
can
the
also
compressed,
weigh the balloon uninflated.
Hold on, David. You
do it.
can start again, Arwen. You can go next, David. I promise. Go on, Arwen.
It wouldn't be a measuring of the weight. It would be a deduction based on the pre-knowledge you have about the material and the volume mass ratio. So if you actually want to weigh it, you could. And a more efficient way to do it purely by weight is comparing the helium inflated balloon's weight in a vacuum chamber compared to non-inflated balloon in a vacuum chamber. And then you subtract the uninflated balloon weight from the inflated balloon weight, and you got your weight of the helium.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, well, technically, yeah, you could
just 1 second,
say
Babs.
that.
Hold
It's
on.
more...
So just 1 second. Did you want to add something, David?
Yeah, that's nothing you guys are saying is true at all.
Thank you for that, David.
Really? Okay, well, I got to hear this. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Babs.
Go ahead, Babs. Everything you said is wrong, and everything Arwen has said is wrong.
And that's what I want to know. I want to know why you think what I said is wrong. Go.
You cannot weigh a helium balloon in a vacuum chamber, for one.
Hold on, that's Arwen. Look, what he's saying is you can take...
That's Arwen's example. That's not my example.
Hold on, everyone be quiet. Right, hold on, I'm talking to David. Right, that's not the example Babs made. Babs made the example of it being, 2 grams in a square meter, a cubic meter rather.
Yeah.
Right, that's a
hold on,
compressed weight.
David, I'm just summarizing. It won't take me more than 20 seconds. So he's saying you can take how much volume you have of it and just times it by that figure. That's what he's saying. If you want to address that first and then move on to Arwen, that'd be great.
You got that figure from a compressed weight, though. The original weight, the only way you can weigh a gas is by compressing it.
A citation, please.
Well, go outside and try to grab some air out of the air. And
then ask him what he can do. That's not. Hold on, Arwen. You're next. I promise. That's not what he's asking. He's saying, where do you get the idea? I.e., can you provide a citation that gas can only be weighed when it's compressed?
Well, yeah, I can take a a mason jar and put a
No,
lid
no,
on
no,
it.
no.
There's
I've just said this second time I've said it, David. I don't want you to give an example or ask him to do something. Just want a citation. Are you just talking all over me? Second time I've said it. Don't give us an example, just give us a citation.
I don't have one.
No worries. Do you want to move on to Arwin's claim about weighing balloons and then subtracting the weight of the rubber in a vacuum? Feel free, David.
You cannot weigh anything in a vacuum chamber. I don't know why you would think you can. I mean, you could take the air out and get a no atmospheric weight to it, maybe, but that's about it.
Okay.
You pull the air. All you're doing is
what about the filled up balloon?
Pull the air out.
So is the balloon just blowing up as the vacuum is being drawn in the chamber, just because it likes to be bigger?
You got to remember, the whole thing is the temperature's dropping in there, but the balloon is enlarging.
Who said the temperature's
The only
dropping?
reason-
What's he on about? They take a pump and they just pump out the air. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
there's no air conditioning or cooling or heating or anything of that nature, just a pump.
Trying to escape out the hole that the air's
I'm
being pulled
trying to get a
out of.
statement
How hard is
out.
it?
Trying to get a statement out, David. It's just an air compressor. It's just a pump. It just pumps out the air. That's all that happens.
That's all it happens.
The only reason the balloons are expanding is because there's less pressure being exerted on them. That's the only reason. It has nothing to do with temperature.
Right, the air that was on the outside pressing on the balloon to keep it at the size that it's at. My God. Yes, absolutely correct, Babs. Yes, in summary, there's no longer air pressing on the outside of the balloon, so there's nothing to counteract the pressure on the inside of the balloon, so it expands. Absolutely correct.
He's exactly right. You're exactly right. Temperature at that small scale doesn't have anything to do with it. But if you do go put a big vacuum on something, it will get cold in there real quick.
Okay, someone else is trying to get a word in. Who was it?
I think Paul.
Paul, go ahead.
It's me. It's actually kind of quiet where I'm at. You could actually weigh the air in the balloon, the helium in the balloon, but it would be a several-step process. You would have to evacuate a vacuum chamber, and then you would have to get a container of some kind, something strong enough to handle it, evacuate all the air out of that, weigh that to know the weight of the container. Then, while there's a vacuum, take that balloon and stick it on that nozzle of that vacuum and let all the air be sucked in, and then weigh the container again, and that would give you the weight of the helium.
Okay, I think my method is probably a little easier.
Nobody believes that story.
Comes
Go
down
ahead
to
and
the same.
explain it again for us real slow like.
Sorry, Arwin or David, I don't care who. I just want to hear what you actually say.
Okay, I'll start out. I'll keep it short. It's pretty much the same method, except a little bit more convoluted. What Paul described, because I don't need a secondary container. I'm just trusting that the balloon can handle the vacuum, that it's designed to do that, and then just weigh the balloon uninflated and weigh it inflated with the gas, and you.
Fine, I get it. You're just saying it's a balloon that is capable of being in a vacuum, and then you can weigh whatever tensile strength or whatever it's measured in after the fact is irrelevant in this example. I get it. Fine. David, go ahead.
Well, I guess if you took something that was made out of steel and you put some and you injected something in it, you might be able to do it that way. But that we're not talking about that. We're talking about all
I don't think
videos.
steel balloons.
Arwin, just let him finish.
Hold on a minute. All we're talking about is all these videos on YouTube that show this balloon in this vacuum chamber. It's all bull crap. It's all just a magic trick. We know that.
Hello, mic check.
Chocolate. Yeah, we hear you, Chocolate. Very well. Welcome to the hangout.
Cool. I was in before. Did you guys see me?
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything because
I was trying to talk and it didn't work. So
I figured that was the case.
What Paul told me before did work. So thank you, Paul.
Nice.
Cool.
Sorry to interrupt.
Is it Anthony? Is it Sleeping Warrior that's on mute with something ready to present?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent
It's
presentation.
just the word science.
Moving on.
Can I say something, Nath?
You're having me on? Yeah, that
Go,
giant
Riley.
pause was for you.
Sorry, have you just introduced me and I missed it?
In essence, but with a bit of humour added. It's fine. I've got you presented.
Excellent. So yesterday, Ranty had a really interesting hangout on his channel. You should check out the highlights. He's just done a premiere with the highlights. And essentially, it was to do with this gas pressure point that spurs his questioning. And regardless of what your view on it is, there's still a legitimate question to be answered because there is no answer to it at the moment. So at the moment, it's standing the test of time. But one of the points that came up in the conversation was the definition of science, which I have on screen. Now, there's numerous tails to this. There's numerous elements to one of the definitions that you can find. There's lots of definitions to it. This is just the first one that you look at when you type in definition for science on Google. And
Hold on,
I've
got a problem already. This is annotated.
Yeah.
This isn't what you find if
see
you Google.
3 ands in there.
Hold on.
Intellectual
yeah, hold
and
on.
practical.
Hold on, Arwin. You're a man
Structure
of law.
and behavior.
Hold on, Arwin. You're a man of law. You know this isn't going to fly. This is annotated.
Sure.
Well, this isn't going to be what you just stated. You just stated this is what you find on Google. Lies. No, it isn't. This is annotated.
Yeah, it's annotated. It doesn't detract from the point. So if it's okay, I wouldn't mind continuing my point without being rumpused by my own side.
Sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, the definition of science, I mean, there's loads to it, right? Intellectual and practical activity, encompassing the systematic study of the structure and the behavior of the physical and natural world. And this is where we got stuck, because Rumpus has got it in his head that the word and doesn't mean observation and experiment. He thinks it means and/or, meaning that one of them you can pick and choose whether you want to apply it or not. Obviously, we said you can't pick and choose. It says and. If you wanted to pick and choose, it would be and/or the other word would be or. So basically, if Rumpus had to obfuscate this point to death, because if the thing that he preaches, his job, whatever his job may be, is science, if it doesn't have experiment, then it falls short of the definition of science. And if it doesn't satisfy the definition of science, as we know, let's go to the other definition that's important. There we have the pseudoscience element, which is the one that says that it's a collection of beliefs, which obviously this fits Rumpus, or practices mistakenly regarded as being based on scientific method. So on the one hand, we've got the definition of science, which is literally, where's it gone? Observation and experiment. But if it falls short of that, and because it doesn't comply with scientific method, which is the experiment part, then you're in the realms of pseudoscience. And Rumpus has to obfuscate that because he needs everyone to think that he's practicing science. Well, the reason why it's observation and experiment is because the observation part is the bit that's the observed phenomena. It's the thing that they look up at the sky and they see floating lights and they think that they're planets. That's the dependent variable in scientific method. But the reason why the experiment part has got to be in there is because that's where the independent variable of the cause and the effect relationship's established. If you don't have that experiment part, you've just got something you're looking at, a phenomena, leaves falling or a shoe. But you need the experiment bit because the experiment bit gives you the cause. And obviously, if you remove the experiment bit and you're just left with an observation, it might be a study, it might be some research, it might be some data collection, but it's not science. And this is why everybody wants to be called scientific, because it's a catchword. It sounds credible. But the reality is, if you're looking at lights through a telescope and you're claiming that they're doing things, it's not science. It's literally just observing something. You need to have that experiment. You need to have the independent variable. You have to give it a bit of a wiggle. If you don't give it a bit of a wiggle, it's not science. I'm done.
Yep. I'll keep it on the page, by the way. I want to elaborate some,
real quick?
if I may.
Can I just say,
Nathan?
Can I just say one thing real quick? That
How
was
quick
an
is
awesome
real quick,
show
David?
last night with Ranny. But
Go
you got to
ahead.
understand, Rumpus has got a bigger problem than that. In newspapers around the world in the last 4 days.
Oh, we heard it. Go ahead, Arwin.
Right.
Go
so
ahead.
yeah, I thought it was really funny. This thing you found on the internet, because there is 4 ands in this A&D 4 times. So there's intellectual and practical. There's the study of structure and behavior in the physical and natural world, and observation and experiment. So if we approach this by Rumpus standards, That means within this sentence, you can choose which one of the two with every and. So you can basically have intellectual activity encompassing the systematic study of behavior and of the natural world through observation.
Yeah,
and
you're
that,
right.
according to Rumpus, could be science.
You're right. And that's why Rumpus pushes that you can have natural science, which isn't complying with the scientific method because it doesn't have an independent variable, because nature varies the independent variable for you. And obviously that gives you a correlation. It doesn't give you a cause. Nature's doing something, but it might be like the cockerel, where the cockerel crowing of a morning sounds like it causes the sun to rise, and then you blow its head off and you realize it didn't cause the sun to rise, but it correlated. Just because it looks like it causes it, don't mean it does. That's why we have science. And these guys have to obfuscate it, because otherwise they get pigeonholed as either pseudoscientists or just falling short of science and doing something like research. And nobody wants to be a researcher. Everybody wants to be a scientist because it sounds a lot more credible.
The only reason that they're obfuscating our points is because even though we're making a lot of logical sense, they still need gravity to explain how people can stand at the bottom of a ball and not fall off. So that's the reason that they're not letting it go, because like the whole model is based on gravity. And some people say that they don't need it, but they definitely need it.
No, it has to be there. It's elusive. They can't find it. They can figure out how it should be there, but they can't really find it. But it has to be there, or everything else they imagined is being out there could not be there. And it has to be there because they see it. They're being told it is there. So gravity must be there, even though nobody can find it.
Why? Bab, say that again.
Just let me finish that.
Why?
You want me to say that again, David?
Yeah, say it again. Tell everybody why they got to have this gravity still.
All right, they need gravity to explain how you can have people standing antipode to you, how you can have humans at the bottom of a ball not falling off. And if they don't have gravity, they can't explain that on their model. They can't explain a lot of things on their model. Not just how atmosphere stays on a ball, but that as well.
Yeah, how about that newspaper that's worldwide right now? Newton was wrong. And this is coming out of UCLA, right? Newton was wrong. Scientists dismiss Newton's theory of gravity. So what's going on now? I mean, what has Rumpus got to say to this? There's 100 scientists across this country and world that are saying that Newton has been dismissed. What is the answer now? Space-time?
Rumpus doesn't push Newtonian gravity. He pushes Einsteinian gravity. So it doesn't matter if Newton's wrong or not to him.
Well, that's not true. Rumpus does push Newtonian unless you challenge him, and then he'll back down quickly and say, well, it does manifest itself as a force in our three-dimensional world, but he does misrepresent it as a force as per Newton. You're not right there. He will back down under challenge, but he presents it in a Newtonian style because he says that weights, scales are a force meter.
Yeah, he says
things like mass is not a force, weight is a force.
Did you hear the end of that, David?
No, he talked over it.
Yeah, I got it.
Hey, Jose. Can you hear us?
Hello, yeah, check.
Hey, Jose.
Gravity. I just came into hanging here for a while.
What's up, Jose?
All good.
I mean, the definition of force is mass times acceleration. Why can't it be that it's the mass of that object that's causing it to accelerate? Why does it have to be an outside force that's making that happen?
But that's why Rumpus says mass is not a force.
I've said the same thing, Babs.
Yeah.
I get it.
I mean, that's why Rumpus says that mass is not a force, weight is a force, even though the force that he's referring to is not a force by everybody, including George Musa. Rumpus still needs it to be a force because he can't accept mass as the force. But the problem is none of these ballers can accept that mass is the force, but it's obvious that mass does cause movements if it's able to move because it's heavier than something else. Oh, it's gravity. No, it's not. We know it's not gravity. It's not a force. It can't cause anything.
Yeah, Rumpus is using semantics because weight is intrinsic to gravity. So that's the only reason he's using it, so that he can always fall back on gravity.
But the thing is, the more we push this point, the more obvious it looks that Rumpus is being the one that's deceitful.
I mean, everybody can see that. Everybody can see that he's being deceitful.
I agree.
Let's not forget, Anthony, George Musser. They described when they got in this pickle here that it was magic. It was magical.
And let's not forget Fight the Flat Earth, because without Fight the Flat Earth doing such a massive Sleeping Warrior week where he emphasised and exaggerated the importance of this interview with George Musser, everybody wouldn't know about this. It'd be just my little corner of the internet, and everybody else would be ignoring it. But now, because of him and George Musser stabbing him in the eye with a compass and not supporting him, it means that everybody's well aware of it. So shout outs to Craig.
On this,
How
sorry
about,
to
how
interrupt.
about this top 100 scientists that have claimed this also here this week in newspaper after newspaper across the world? There's 100 scientists that say that Rumpus is wrong, that he doesn't know what he's talking about, that Newtonian gravity has been dismissed. It is a wrong theory. What does the word wrong mean when you talk about Newton's gravity theory and it says it's wrong?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
They can't even agree on the meaning of the word superseded in that document that Craig likes. Einstein superseded Newtonian principles by showing it was the curvature of space-time and not an invisible force. They can't accept that supersede. They want supersede to be refined or modified or added to. It doesn't. We all know what superseded means.
Not a theory.
So how does that hold people upside down? That's what he asked. That's what Babs asked a while ago. So how are they going to explain this now?
Can't.
Well,
they can't explain this.
There's
three things they can't explain. They can't explain what causes tides if they've not got a gravity as a force. They can't explain sticky oceans, and they can't explain sticky atmospheres.
In this, you know what? I have to admit, I haven't listened to that George Musser interview, the whole thing. But somebody told me, some people have told me, like, if you listen the whole interview in content, a little preface to that question, and then the after explanation when he said gravity is not a force, is kind of a whole. As a whole, you got to look at the explanation, because if you take just this snippet of gravity is not a force, you can interpret it either way. I'm just saying that it might be a little out of context.
Go ahead, Jose.
We don't
No,
take
that's
it
it.
like that.
It might have been taken a little, not a little out of context, but it's just a matter of interpretation. The way you
No,
see
it's
it.
not. If we were taking it out of context,
hold on, Anthony. So, what's the full in context quote then, Jose?
No. As I say, I have to what do you say, concede that I haven't looked at the whole interview. I just heard that, so I have to just sit down and see it by myself. But I heard people saying if you see it in content, if you might see it in a different way.
I don't need you repeating. What you're saying is, other people have told you, and now you're parroting something which you've got no vaguest notion of. You don't know what the context is. I hadn't finished. So you haven't got the vaguest notion what the context is. You haven't looked at it, but you're more than happy to parrot what someone else has said about the context without knowing it. That's what you're basically doing. Wow, mindless.
Yeah, can I answer to that? So I'm not saying that you have to interpret it in a different way. I'm not saying sleeping water is wrong. I'm saying that to make a decision, if you only listening to this show today and listening to Sleeping Water explanation on it, you might side on his side and say, all right, Sleeping Water is right because he's telling us the content and the interpretation. You got to look at yourself as a whole and make your own interpretation.
Fair enough. So
that's what I'm saying. I'm not misinterpreting anything. I'm not explaining
No, I agree.
anything.
What do you say to David then, who's currently punting the fact that lots of newspapers are 100 years late in the respect that Newtonian mechanics are wrong? What would you say to David in that regard?
Yeah, actually, I read a little bit on an article, and they're talking about what do you say, this Michio Kaku, the multiple universe, the string theory thing, that there might be another explanation for gravity if you look at the content of the string theory, multi-universe BS. But I don't know. I mean, who knows if in 10 years we're going to have a totally different explanation on gravity besides the Newtonian or Einsteinian, and they're going to come up with a new BS for gravity.
It's probably going to turn out to be more ethereal.
Owen, sorry. I tried to get it in last time. I'm going to get it in this time. Not a theory. So, I feign no hypothesis for gravitation. Yeah, he's not making theories being the result of an application of the scientific method. And Mishikatu talking about string theory. Well, we're not talking about science here. This is colloquial use of the word theory. Absolutely not scientific just because he's got a little name tag and calls himself a scientist. He's not developing scientific theories. He's developing bullshit just so stories when he talks about string theory. Just to get
I have to agree with you in that 100%. I never mentioned scientific theory. I just say theory in the colloquial sense.
Excellent. I'm glad we got that clear, because now I will. When we talk about the new nonsense which the papers assert will be after next, i.e. Einsteinian just so stories, also incorrectly identified as theories, which they are absolutely not. What they are is a just so story about a conceptual medium. We're all familiar with the word conceptual now, aren't we? Not real, just thought of in your mind. And that conceptual medium's called space-time. It does not exist. Now, you can bend the space-time, and you can say, think, feel, describe, but not actually experience a force, Jose. Because gravity, the bending of said conceptual medium that doesn't really exist, that doesn't give rise to any force. It's just a conceptual medium, and bending it does nothing. So, out of context, Anthony is not. When George Musa, astrophysicist, states gravity is not a force, end quote, he's absolutely in context and correct, because it isn't. It's a conceptual medium made up by a guy called Einstein. And the geometry for said conceptual medium is called pseudo-Riemannian for space, length, breadth, depth, and time. Now, time is the conceptual medium in which all things take place. It's not something you can bend and give a force to. Hope that's clear, Jose. Not out of context.
Thank you for the explanation. You got a bunch of people taking notes in the chat. I appreciate it.
Well, I happen to have the words of Musser written down here on that interview when he said snapping of the wand, that the force is non-local. In other words, that the Earth reaches out as though by magic to hold on to the moon and grip it. So if the force is not local, then it's not mass attracting mass. And what Nathan just said about the conceptual medium, made up story. Then he goes on further in the interview. I use the word magic in a couple of senses. And then he describes a supernatural element. And I didn't think scientists would do that. So they're totally back against the wall. They have no idea. They're making up things. So now they bring in the word magic and supernatural because they've been caught with their shorts down.
Jose, can I ask you a question?
I'll answer you the best of my abilities.
Yeah. Do you mind, what car do you drive?
I don't have a car. My driver's license is broken for the last 2 years.
Broken? Hold on. That's an interesting
I call it
phrase.
broken because it's suspended, yeah.
Oh, okay. DUI? Were you drunk driving?
No. I sold a car. I didn't turn the tag, and I canceled the insurance. And when I went to renew the tag, they told me, "Oh, you've been driving for the last year without insurance, so we've been suspended your license." It was a misunderstanding. I got to pay a little fee to get it.
Bummer. No worries. Could happen to anyone. Not a DUI.
Okay, so anyway, back on topic. Let's just say, for the sake of this next conversation, let's just say that you drive a Ford Taurus. Yeah?
Yeah.
Year 2000, it's a bit battered. You might get another 12 months out of it, but it's getting ready for the junkyard. If I said to you, what car do you drive? And you said a Ford Taurus. And I said, oh yeah, I'm familiar with one of them. I know what that means when you say it's a Taurus. If I said to you, is it a Ferrari? And you said, well, you can think of it as a Ferrari. Does it make it a Ferrari, or is it still a battered Taurus?
No, yeah, it's a battered car like that.
So when Musa said gravity's not a force, but you can think of it as a force, does that make gravity a force, or is it still not a force?
In that content, in this specific example, yeah, it's not. One has to do anything with the other one in this specific example.
Sorry, I didn't hear that response. Hold on, Anthony. Could you say that again, please, Jose? Can you repeat yourself a little bit clearer?
In the content that Anthony explained it right now in this one interaction, you're right, Anthony. Yeah, you're right.
About what?
So next time
Hold
the
on,
rumpus
I
says
want to squeeze this a bit
force.
more. He's about right about what exactly?
You want to take it? You want to take the audio clip now? I'm good.
He's not giving me my soundbite, is he, little sod?
To be fair, Nathan, I was going to ask the same question that you asked, which was, could you elaborate on what you just said? Because I didn't quite understand it. We all know what it means when it says you can think of it as a Ferrari, but it's not really a Ferrari. We get that, right? But for some reason, Rumpus presents it as though gravity's a force, and nobody ever corrects him on it. And it confuses people, Jose. And you're the host where you allow him to get away with that. And I'm just curious as to why you wouldn't correct him when you understand that your 2000 Taurus isn't really a Ferrari, even if we think of it as a Ferrari.
Well, he's not going to... I'm going to save him. Jimbo Con, thanks for the super chat. Next step is for them to start releasing new discoveries, in quotes, about gravitons. FE has them scared. Yeah, they've released this into the rhetoric 100 years ago. It's just they've never punted it, and now we're highlighting that their current nonsense, i.e. Einsteinian nonsense, bending of conceptual mediums, is the current nonsense, and the old nonsense is also nonsense, but superseded, nice word there, Anthony, by the current nonsense. So we're just pointing that out to our opponents, who are very, very slow on the uptake, given that this happened about 100 years ago.
So let's say if I got a bicycle, a motorized, just bicycle, pedaling, and I plug a little motor on it, and it make 50 miles an hour. And then there's also a scooter, a 50cc scooter, that also rides 50 miles per hour. So my bicycle is not a scooter, but I can think of it as a scooter because it does the same thing, the same effects and the same the method of transportation. So my bicycle is not a scooter, but I can think of it as a scooter. Yeah, that works.
Still isn't a scooter, though, is it?
Maybe not,
scooter,
but it acts
come
like
on,
a
man.
scooter, and everything works just as a scooter.
Yeah, the scooter and the
Does
bike
the scooter have
do the
pedals?
same speed, but they're not the same vehicle.
It's a method of transportation. It takes me from
Sure.
point A to point B. I hop on it.
That's why there's
I
two
drive,
different names for it, right? That's why it's called this. One is called a scooter, the other one's called a motorcycle, right?
But
because they're not the same
you have
thing.
to concede, but you have to agree. You got to give me that one. Like I'm real in this.
Come on,
I'm
Jose.
right.
Come on.
Am I right or not?
Hey, Jose.
Jose, why are you trying to get sympathy
Let's get
points,
some
man?
control.
Can't do that, man.
Hold on. Sorry, was somebody...
I know the cars are 50 miles an hour, by the way.
The scooter doesn't have pedals. The bicycle does. A bicycle has an extra function with a motor put on it. It's a bicycle with a motor. It's not a scooter with pedals.
Exactly the same, but it's the same function. It takes me from point A to point B. I have to balance it the same. I got to win. It's same speed, everything. So I can think of it as a scooter.
You can.
I can put a big sticker and say,
That's
"This
correct.
is my scooter."
Look,
Boom.
let's just agree and make the final conclusion, which is yes, you can think of it as a scooter, but it isn't.
Can I just give a word of warning for you, Jose?
Think of Dr. Pepper as Coke, but you can't think as Coke as Dr. Pepper.
Jose, you know, if you're gonna think of your scooter of that it's a motorcycle, can I give you a respectful word of warning if you think of something that's not actually what it really is?
Yeah, please.
I'm gonna stick it on screen, Nathan. If you put it on so that Jose can see it.
Sure.
The definition for the word delusional states that characterized by holding idiosyncratic beliefs or impressions that are contradicted by reality or rational argument, typically as a symptom of a mental disorder. Specifically that bit where it says beliefs or impressions that are contradicted by reality. So I would say that if you think that you're riding a scooter, but really you're on a push bike, that's contradicted by reality, isn't it? Because it's not really a scooter, is it?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Shout out to JC Masters 100 in the chat. I hope you speak a second language because I would like to have a conversation with you in your second language to see how you do. Thank you.
Hey, Jose, before you go, is this explain why you're not driving? You had tags. You didn't have tags, but you thought you have tags?
Yeah, right. No, I didn't have a car, and I didn't think I had one.
Yeah, what 10th Man's getting at is you can think of it as though you had tags, but you still lost your license. Even though you thought you had, and you could think of it as having, you didn't, so you lost your license.
Amen.
I just hope that you correct Rumpus next time he comes in and says that gravity, or anybody for that matter of fact, if anybody comes in claiming gravity to be a force and it can cause things like sticky atmospheres and sticky oceans and tides, I hope you'll correct them and say it's not really a force though, is it? Because we all know it's not a force. You'd have to be delusional to think it was a force when we know reality states that it's not a force, because that's what the current science tells us.
You don't correct
Yeah,
him.
but I suck at.
You
I
don't.
suck
I'm
at.
sorry. I'm
Hold on,
sorry.
Jose.
You don't correct him. You harsh tranquilize him and institutionalize him. And Jose retard. It's a force, but you can think of it as a force, is a law of identity violation. Clown show. Go back to your friggin' hole with your other knucklehead retards. Why don't you bring
No,
a couple
what I was going to
Why
say
don't you
before
bring
John
why don't you
interrupted
bring
and
a
ad
couple of
hominem
them
me
over
and
here?
insulted me,
That
and then now try
Brian
to talk over me
Peckerwood-
before I even get to answer Sleeping Water
Brian
point.
Peckerwood.
Okay, go ahead.
That
Go ahead. Keep
idiot
insulting me,
Dress the
John.
Legend. That Dress the Legend. I caught him 2 years ago in a comment thread and ripped him around by his friggin' pseudo-intellectual short hairs. He's a clown too. Also, that Dean idiot. He still has some business over here to take care of. Like Ranty's 18-mile observation. He needs to model that. You idiots.
Okay, can I have
And
30
then
seconds
he's
to
on there
speak?
yesterday. He's on there yesterday showing how the moon's shadow can be smaller than its own diameter on a friggin' computer program. Like some friggin', I couldn't believe it. And everyone's agreeing with him. Oh yeah, oh that's so great, Dean. Are you friggin' retarded?
Was it the scale, John?
Damn, I wanted to round up the previous point, and then I really gotta go in a second. Then give me 30
Yeah,
seconds,
you better
please.
go. It's time for you. It's getting late early for you. Go
Are you
ask
gonna
your
let me
slobber
speak,
nurses
John?
to friggin'
Like, I've
brush
been
your
very
teeth.
polite and very
I
nice,
don't
and you
think
came in
so.
hot.
I don't care
Jose,
about your politeness.
you know what's happening.
But like today, I'm mellow, I'm calm, and John came in hard, just calling me retard and stuff. I don't
care,
I'm
man. No,
not
I'm
want
not
to
just
engage
calling you
him. I just want
retard.
to
I'm
round up my
showing how
point.
you are a retard. There's a big difference. Do you
I
know what
really
the
don't
law
want
of
to
identity
give my
is?
final touch before I go.
Do you know what the law of
Jose,
identity is?
just say your final thoughts.
Yeah, but he's gonna keep talking over me. And
He's asking you a
insulting me,
question.
just
He's
doing
asking
that.
you if you know what a law of identity violation is.
I'm sorry, was that a question to me?
Yeah, he's tried about 3 or 4 times to ask you if you know what a law of identity violation is.
Is that like calling
I
it
can't answer that after I make my
man?
previous point because I don't want to.
Sorry.
So when you tell me Sleeping Water, when Rumpus make this point about gravity being a force and me correcting him, that's why I really wanted to say this. I cannot either argue against or in favor of it for crap because I suck at explaining things and try to coherently explain my points. I need like freaking 10 minutes to try to structure the sentence together in my brain. It's really tough on me. I start learning English really late and I cannot argue or defend.
It's funny how
attack it for crap, like for real.
it's funny how coherent you were then when you were saying how you couldn't do it.
No, exactly, because I'm taking my time kind of slow, but when it's a specific point with using words, because if I throw a word in the wrong spot, it's gonna change the content completely. So when I'm in the rush try to get a sentence out, I can't.
Well, if you'd allow me, Jose,
I think I can
in-
summarize this
explanation,
for Jose. He just doesn't
Jose, if you just
know
allow me,
because-
just all you got to say, Jose, is gravity's not a force. End of sentence. That's it.
No, you know what? I'll be happy to say that when I listen to the interview on myself, on content, previous and before the statement, because that's what I mentioned before. I cannot either accept or deny it until I personally listen to it. And instead of listening to your side, to interpretation or their interpretation, I'm neither here or there. I haven't listened to myself. So how am I going to defend a point when I don't know what the point is in content?
Your interpretation. Get one of your fleet of slobber nurses to interpret it for you.
Don't get rumpus because he struggles with the word
Well,
and.
they interpret it for me and they say gravity is a force. That's why I'm not here near there because I hear two sides of the story, but I haven't listened to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you sure have many opinions on your show, though, don't you? Can you tell us how astronauts? Can you tell us something? How astronauts? I'm going to have a show on this too. How a number of different groups of astronauts can say that when they're out in space, that it's a palpable black void, while others, they say it's so bright you can hardly friggin' see. Please reconcile those two statements for us, Jose.
Yeah, there are like 5 or 6 hours of the content talking about that specific point in another channel.
You can. Yeah,
and I cannot explain it
to your
in
retard.
1 minute or 30 seconds. 6 hours of content.
Yeah, 6 hours of friggin' nonsensical buffoonery. This could be
Jose,
evaluated by an incoherent second grader in less than a minute. You got 6 hours. You should go visit that Steve McRae clown and the Clan McClowns, who had a 4-hour hangout trying to figure out what atheist meant. And at the end, they still didn't know. That's the group you belong. In fact, you're a rung below them. And where's your other retards? Like I said, bring them on over here. That friggin' toady idiot liar that we exposed not that long ago, he's one. Drust the Legend. Where'd you get that friggin' clown from? Right? I whipped him around by his intellectual short hair a long time ago. But then where's
please
Dean?
get back to an actual discussion
Why
instead of...
don't you bring Dean over here with that computer program?
Can I address that point? Can I address the point of bringing other people in? Can I please, John, ask me a question or please ask me for something? I want to answer that. I mean, if this is the way it's gonna go down, many of the people doesn't want to come in. I'm very patient. I just sit in the background. Sometimes I come in hard and I start insulting. Today, I'm just calm. I just came to sit and listen and hang out. But do you think these people is gonna come in to sit in the hangout and let you insult them and calling names
them?
and
No,
not letting them
tear
speak?
them apart. I'm gonna tear their arguments apart.
It's not gonna happen, bro.
I'm gonna tear their arguments apart, you little fucking weasel, you. That's what I'm gonna do.
And just to recap, I not disrespected
Shut up, Arwen.
in one time. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I will
get your ass out of here.
With my forehead head high and my pride up.
Get your ass out of here, you freaking
I'm gonna walk out
clown.
with my forehead
Go back
high,
to your
my
own
pride
hole.
up, because I was
Wait, I got a question for Jose.
And I was very
Don't worry about your question
by John. Everybody was
out
cool,
of
but
here.
John, you step over the line.
Get out of here. Go slime your way back to your own hole.
See you later, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Kiss off.
I was going to ask him, so as long as he keeps avoiding that George Musser video, he can keep denying that gravity is a force or whatever.
George, he doesn't even know what gravity is.
You read my mind, because I was going to say, how did he not, how at this point has not watched that? And you want to have discussions about it.
Hold on a second.
No
Do you even know who you're talking about here? You're talking about Jose. Or you're waiting for him to interpret something that he's listened to? You need to be institutionalized. For crying out loud.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned. If you're watching live, however, and you want to watch the continuation of this conversation, then you need to click in the info box below this video and go and subscribe to my second channel, which is called Nathan Oakley. A huge, enormous, massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live show possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for tuning in, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. As I say, stay tuned if you are watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!